Hello and welcome to the lesson on gradients. So what's a gradient? Well, a gradient is a gradual change of color that sweeps over an image. So in order to use the gradient tool, you need to grab it from your toolbar, and it may not be apparent at first, and that's because it's hidden within this tool here, which is the paint bucket. So to get the gradient tool, just click on the paint bucket and we'll get a pop-out menu showing all the tools available within there, and you'll see the gradient tool is located right here. Now once you have that selected, you then need to decide what type of gradient you want to create. So up here at the top we have 5 different types of gradients to choose from. The first 2 are the most popular, which are the linear and radial gradients. You can also adjust the blending mode, the opacity, and you also have 3 other options over here. So the next step before you apply your gradient is, well, picking out the colors you want for that gradient. So to do that, just click on this sample color box and you'll be presented with the gradient editor. From here, you can then select either one color or multiple colors for your gradient. So to change your colors, you need to come down here to this little color bar down here. And from here, you can change the colors, the opacity, the length of color transition from one color to another, and some other tweaks as well. So let me show you how we can add some color to our gradient. Now on either side of this bar we have some markers. We have some on top and we have some on the bottom. The ones on the bottom are the ones that you use to change the colors. In order to change a color, you need to click on the marker you want to add a color to. Then down here, you're going to click on this box and pick a color. Click OK, and now that color is added to that marker that you selected. You can also do the same thing with this marker over here, so I'm going to go ahead and add a color to this one as well. Then you can add additional colors in between these 2 markers by adding another marker, and to do that you're just going to click below the bar to add a new marker, and then you can add a color to it as well. Alright, now I have 3 different markers on the bottom, and then we can move those markers left or right to change the length of that specific color's gradual transition from one to the other. Just click on the marker and drag it left or right to adjust it as needed. Alright, you may also notice something else here on the bottom of that bar as well. We now have 2 diamond shapes that were not there before. These are different types of markers that allow you to further tweak the color transition from one to the other. So if we click and drag it to the far left or to the far right, you can then see that the color on the opposite side has become a hard edge, and the transition is not as smooth as before when it was in the middle. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put that back in the middle. And then if we want to change the opacity of the color, we can click on one of these top end markers and then adjust the opacity here. Once you've created the color gradient that you want to use, you might want to use it in the future. So to save it to this library, you're going to click on New, and then it will be added to this area up here, and it gives you easy access to use it again in the future. Alright, so once you're happy with the colors and the color transitions, go ahead and click OK, and then you can begin adding that gradient to your image. But before we do that, there's one thing that we need to do before adding it, and that's creating a new layer so we can work with this gradient non-destructively. So I'm going to press Shift plus Command or Control and the letter N, and that adds a new layer. Alright, so now that I have a new layer, we can work non-destructively, and to apply that gradient to that layer, we're just going to click anywhere on that layer and drag out and hold the mouse button. Holding the mouse button allows you to readjust the length of that gradient, and when you're ready to apply it, you will just release your mouse button, and then that gradient will be applied. If you're not happy with how the gradient looks, you can always redo it by clicking and dragging out a new one, and it's going to replace the original. All right, so right now I'm using the linear gradient, and if I want to have a perfect horizontal line or maybe a vertical line, then I can do that by holding down the Shift key and then dragging it out, and it's going to add a perfectly horizontal or vertical gradient. All right, so in this course, we're not going to be using the linear gradient for the creative edits that we're going to be making. Instead, we will be using the radial gradient. It works exactly the same. Click and drag out, release the mouse button, and the gradient will be applied. And if I want a perfect circle, I can hold down the Shift key as I drag out, and that will create a perfectly round circle for us. All right, right now, it looks kind of funny because we're applying this gradient over an image and we can't see the image, but that's all right because throughout the course, you're gonna learn how to blend this in so that it works with your image and blends in naturally. That's basically done with the blending modes that we have here and adjusting the opacity as well. And we're gonna go over more about that in upcoming lessons. All right, so that's it for the lesson on the gradient tool. Now that all the basic tools have been covered, it's now time to have some fun and start learning how to apply lighting effects with these tools to your images. And in the first lesson, we're going to explore an image that was shot during sunset. And for that image, we're going to intensify the sun, the golden colors, and you're going to apply different tools to give it that warmth that you usually see on a hot summer day. All right, so if you're ready to get started, let's do it.